What's going on, everybody? Gonna give a second attempt on a full flight stream. I am a real world flight dispatcher for a Part 121 airline. Spent many of hours in a Airbus jump seat for my company, as well as plenty of other airplanes from other airlines, that kind of stuff. But none of that's relevant because I don't spend nearly as much time in other airlines jump seats as I do my own. So anyways, we're parked remote on the ramp. I'm going to pretend as if this aircraft diverted to Hartford, Connecticut for maintenance reasons. Aircraft is parked remote so that maintenance could get finished working on the aircraft. The airplane has been returned to service. The airplane is needed in DCA, so we're going to do a reposition flight from Hartford down to DC. Everything is prepared and ready to go. We'll do a quick rundown on the flight plan. Using SimBrief, we are departing on the Bradley 4, which is an area departure. So it's basically just vectors to affix, or you could probably get RNAV, but the Bradley 4 calls for vectors. So we'll look at the chart in just a minute. We'll plan vectors to veers and then continue all the way through. Look at our route. Coming on down. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. This is kind of boring stuff for some folks. Some people like it. Yeah, so we're planning to depart on runway 6. We got pretty good weather today. Shouldn't have any issues. Obviously, we're super light. We have no passengers, no payload. Just 2 pilots and a crew. Or not a crew, but some fuel. Going to depart runway 6. Planning to arrive on ILS runway 1 in DCA. Our minimum required takeoff fuel is 10.5. We do have an extra 1,000 pounds of fuel planned here in the extra, which is just what we would usually call above the line. On our paperwork, we have what we refer to as what's above the line is above your min takeoff fuel. So that's fuel that's protected for any constraints. Being that it's DCA in dense airspace with lots of traffic, it's never a bad idea to have a little bit of extra fuel in case you got to go around or meter for spacing, whatever. So it gives us a total ramp fuel of 11.9, so we'll round it up, call that 12. We're expecting to land in DCA with 5.4 in a real life NEO, at least based off of my company. The minimum fuel that we like to plan for a NEO would be 4.6. Based off of with this extra 1,000 pounds. If we were to take that out, we would expect to land 4.4. So I mean the burns seem like they're somewhat realistic. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and get ready to get out of here. As you can see, we're parked remote. We'll push back, turn our nose to the right. We're going to taxi over to runway 6 for departure. We have a runway heading of 058, but the Bradley 4 calls for taking off runway 6. We'll climb to a heading of 75 degrees with the initial altitude of 4,000 feet. So that's what we'll plan on doing. Alright, so here we are in the cockpit. Everything's prepped, ready to go. This is going to be a little bit of an adjustment for myself. I have a 49-inch ultra-wide monitor. I'm used to being able to see the autopilot panel in all of its entirety, plus the captain's side. I do fly from the right side. I know a lot of people probably find that weird. I used to be a big-time left seat simmer, and then I ended up getting a throttle that was for left-handed, is like a fighter throttle. So I ended up, to try to be realistic, moving over to the right seat. Plus I wanted to get better at flying from the right seat, and I've just never gone back. So hello everybody from the first officer side of things. Alright, so let's call the tug up, and while that's going to get hooked up to the airplane, we'll go through our before start checklist to the line. So before start checklist to the line, maintenance log and tails onboard and checked, cockpit prep's complete, gear pins covers removed, signs on auto, aiders nav. Fuel, we have 10.5 required with 11 point, looks like 9 on board. Been running the APU for a minute, so we're about 100 pounds from what our planned ramp fuel was. Altimeters 2985 set, EFB is checked. Before start checklist to the line is complete. Alright, so it looks like the tug is hooked up and ready to go. So we'll finish up the checklist. Before start checklist below the line, windows, doors, and slides closed and on. Beacon on, thrust levers idle, parking brakes on, transponders auto. Before start checklist below the line is complete. Alright, parking brakes are released and clear to push. We will start our turn, and we'll start engine 1. And I do have the TCA Airbus throttle quadrant, so there will be some things that you won't see me click in some parts of the flows. We'll get out of that vehicle movement area and then start a taxi out from there. Alright, brakes are set, cleared off headset, clear disconnect. Y'all have a good one. We do anticipate a short taxi, so we'll go ahead and start engine 2 and do a 2-engine taxi to the active. Not on VATSIM. Still want to get acclimated to this whole streaming thing before getting that brave. Another thing I plan on doing in the near future, got another fellow dispatch buddy of mine. He's also pretty big into simming. Him and I recently watched B1 simulation shared cockpit flight from DFW to LA. So we plan on trying to do the same thing. We're going to practice a little bit first, make sure we're both what we feel like is up to par before we go doing that kind of thing, and eventually in the near future replicate that same flight and see if maybe a couple of dispatchers can hang with the true pros. Alright, so engine 2 is available. I'll restart the timer for 3 minutes for the engines to warm up. Do our after start flow. Alrighty. After start checklist, engine anti-ice is off, yellow electric pump off, rudder trim 0. After start checklist is complete. Brake check. Pressure's green. Oh, rookie mistake. Oh wait, no, hang on. Oh, jeez, embarrassing. He's pretty good. Actually, I think I've never done that before. Alright, now that they're gone, brakes released. I've tried setting the tiller up. Since it doesn't have its own axis, just has the increase and decrease steering. I do not like the way that it functions. So for now, until maybe tillers get their own axis, I'll stick with the rudder. All right, so let's do flight controls check. Where I can see a little bit of everything. All right, so we got full left, full right, neutral, full up, full down, neutral. And if we had a tiller and can disconnect nose wheel steering, we could keep doing this in a taxi. Rudder full left, full right, and neutral. And then the FO would do there silently. Flight controls check is complete. Alright, so there's our 3 minutes for the warm-up. Get rid of that timer. And do our before takeoff flow. Flight attendants, please prepare cabin for departure. Alright, so before takeoff checklist to the line. Gross weight comparison is complete. Pitch trim 30% CG set. V1 VR V2 flex. V1 121, VR 122, V2 126 flex 70. Let's see, flaps config 1 plus F. Flight emissions check, flight controls checked, ECAM memo takeoff all green. ECAM status checked, PWS on auto, TCAS TARA. Cabin crews advised mini brief is complete before takeoff checklist to the lines complete. Another thing I wish that maybe fly-by-wire could do is separate the runway turn-off lights and the taxi light. I have my taxi lights bound to a key on my keyboard, but yet it controls both. I would like to have both of those separate. Because on the Airbus, typically you control both of them separately almost all the time. Alright, so we'll hold short of the runway, set the parking brake, and we'll kill those lights while we finish the checklists. So before takeoff checklist below the line, takeoff runway 06 confirmed, fuel 10.5 is required, and we've got 11.9 on board. Engine mode selector is normal, bleeds package set. Before takeoff checklist below the line is complete. Alright, we are clear on the approach. So we're looking for a runway heading of 058 to make sure that we are perfectly lined up. Alrighty. Now, as the SID calls for, Fly heading of 075. Alright, let's go flying. Man, flex SRS auto thrust blue. Brake. Gear up. It's on spoilers. It's 400 feet. Heading. Thrust climb, open climb. Go, flaps up. This is when it'd be really nice to have an FO so I can keep hand flying. Speed Alt Star. And get direct to veers, put in McDo. So for now, I guess we'll set autopilot 1 and get that put in. Nav. Alt. And so you'll hear me saying little weird things for those of you who don't already know. Anytime in the Airbus, at least based off of my company, when the PFD changes, whether it's Alt Star, you say you go heading to nav mode, whatever it is, anytime something changes, you say it out loud. So you can confirm with the pilot monitoring what mode the aircraft is in. I know some airlines are different. There's another airline I know of where on the takeoff roll, instead of saying man flex, SRS, auto thrust blue, or whatever the case, they don't say anything at all. I talked to a buddy of mine who's a captain at that particular airline. They said it's because pilots can get in the bad habit of just saying those I don't know what you'd call it, enunciators, whatever. You just get a habit of saying it without actually reading it off the PFD, and that can lead to mistakes. So they don't say it at all. In my company, we do. Or I guess they do, the pilot, since I'm not a pilot. Anyways, I kind of like it. I've gotten used to it, and it helps you pay attention to what the aircraft is doing. Alright, so we'll continue our climb. And we'll just pretend ATC gave us climb maintain flight 140. Thrust climb, climb. We are super light today, so this airplane's going to climb like a rocket. It's also trying to pitch for that 250 knot speed. 1,000. Lights off. And even though this is a repo, and I'm sure even the same with real life pilots, real life repos, call them back to the flight attendant. Sometimes on repo flights, flight attendants are still back there. Depends on the situation. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But it's always good for pilots to not change their flows, so they keep their keep good habits going. Last thing you'd want is, not that one repo flight's probably going to change all of your habits, but as a pilot, but nonetheless, wouldn't want to work a repo flight, change something that you wouldn't usually change, and then make mistakes on future flights. Thrust, climb, climb. And here comes transition altitude. Well, if we can pull standard with all these bumps. And now that I'm starting streaming, you gotta wonder, guys like Captain Canada, V1 Simulations, 320 Sim Pilot, Flight Deck to Sim, all those guys, when they first started streaming and there weren't hundreds or thousands of people watching their streams, what they did times like this, where there's not a whole lot going on in the plane, you don't have anybody watching, so you don't have anybody in the chat to talk to. It's got to be, at least as I'm finding right now, it's kind of weird to have the silence when you feel like you're supposed to be providing some sort of entertainment level to people who you hope would eventually watch. There's not much to entertain or talk about whenever you're pretty much flying by yourself. But in the future, I do plan on doing some VAT sim flights, and that'll definitely help fill the void quite a bit. Alright, so we're starting to get up into this light layer of clouds. We'll turn on the anti-ice. So for those of you who don't know already, if you are below, actually, correction, if it's 10 degrees Celsius or less invisible moisture, that's icing conditions. Especially when you're higher altitude like this, it's always obviously going to be colder than 10 degrees Celsius. So when you get into visible moisture like clouds, make sure you turn that engine anti-ice on. If you get into an area of moderate or severe icing, obviously you want to be turning on that wing anti-ice as well. Our camera was left back in Hartford. There we go. It's a little bit better. Probably gonna get some stutters out of the sim since I was trying to load Bradley back up. Cruise. So our initial, the planned cruising altitude was 30,000 feet. It's only an hour-long flight. I'll tell you what though, since we're so light and got up here so fast, we've got a lot of flying left to do. Let's go ahead and climb and get above these tops. Get us out of any icing conditions. I think 360's doable since we're light as a feather. Man, bumps though. For us, climb up, climb. Hopefully, we'll find some smoother rides when we get above this stuff too. So a little bit later in the flight, we'll do an approach briefing, at least the best part of an approach briefing that I can come up with. You'll have to bear with me on that part. It'll probably be a little long-winded since I'm going to be slower at that. Pilots, especially those who do this every day, can run through all the key points of an approach briefing much faster than I can. My brain runs a little bit slow trying to make sure I don't miss anything or mispronounce stuff. That's one of the things I do dread with this whole YouTube deal. Is all the keyboard warrior pilots are going to have a lot to say. Oh, you start engine 2 first, or oh, you this or that. I think what a lot of folks don't know is there are company standard operating procedures where one airline will do it this way, other airlines will do it another way. I don't even know what dictates that, but as far as I know, airlines come up with what SOPs they would like to do, submit it to the FAA. The FAA agrees, they'll sign off on it, and the FAA can agree to 2 different SOPs that contain basically doing the same thing. So as of right now, granted, I'd have no winds put in. We're showing that we're going to land with 6,800 pounds of fuel in DCA at 2155 Zulu. Let's do a little tinkering around and see if we can probably fudge these numbers up. Goodness, says we got an extra 5,300 pounds of fuel. That's not true. Alright, so based off of our flight plan, let's see, bring this down here just to look at, see where I'm getting these numbers from. Our next fix BizX. It's a really weird name. At BizX, winds are 257 and 84 knots. Now this is also at 30,000 feet. So let's change that so we get some more accurate. Or here we go. We'll use 340. So BizX 340. Oh, I don't have it decoded. I'm not about to go doing a whole bunch of math stuff to figure out winds aloft. We have descent winds right here, but that's going to be further down the line. Alright, let's do this. Alright, so BizX, flight level 360, winds 256 at 90 knots. So let's put that in, see what difference we get. But again, this is just going to be the general winds. That's probably one thing I need to talk to our pilots about. How they go about putting the winds in. I'm surely they don't do it fix by fix. Anyways, 250, do the same thing, 256 at 90. Guess that's not going to change anything. Oh, duh. That's climb winds. That copy. Nope. Alright. Clear this out. Now, 256. 90 knots. Flight level 360. Alright. See if that changes anything. Time has changed, but fuel has not changed. Maybe it's something that needs to be set on the ground. Let's see, look for next big change. 90, 88, 90. 257 and 99. Winds getting strong. Well, so the winds don't change just too much. So we'll just leave that in there that we have. We should burn less fuel, I believe. So we're going predominantly. Yeah, it's pretty much a might actually have better burns flying lower. Typically, you burn less fuel at higher altitudes, but then again, if you have stronger headwinds at higher altitudes than you do at lower altitudes, then you can get better fuel burns lower. Well, we got everything set, so we'll just stick with this for now. Got 213 miles to go, and that's on our file or our planned route that we have in the McDo. In a straight line from our present position, it's 191 miles to the runway 01's threshold. As we get closer, we'll pull a more current ATIS from DCA and see what's going on there, and we'll program the McDo for the arrival. But when we departed, DCA was sent with ATIS info, India 1952 Zulu, which is way old, way old. Typically, a new ATIS comes out on top of the hour, or near the top of the hour of every hour, or unless there's a significant change. So 1952 Zulu, the next one would have been 2052. No, actually, never mind. It's not that old. I just looked at the hours and assumed. Yeah, so the latest ATIS would be at 2052 Zulu. That'll probably be the one that will be on everyone 30 minutes, hour-long flight. Yeah, so we'll be in the same whatever that ATIS is. But the time we left, winds are 340 at 13, gusting 18. 10 statute miles, scattered at 5,000, scattered 25,000, temperature 19, dew point 6, altimeter 299.6. See, arrivals expect CVFP MTV 1. To look in the charts of what that is. Landing and departing runways 1, 3, 3, 4. Multiple approaches in effect. And yeah, definitely do not enter prohibited airspace north of the airport. Otherwise, get shot down. So since we're going to be arriving within this next ATIS, we'll go ahead and send for it. But even still, when you're getting close to top of descent, you'll still send for the ATIS another 1, maybe 2 times. If weather conditions are rapidly changing, say if you got some thunderstorms rolling through, you'll be looking at METARs and ATIS pretty often the closer you get. And there's a company message. Alright, so now we got info Juliet at 2052 Zulu. Winds 230 at 14, gusting 19. 10 statute miles, few at 5,000, scattered 25,000, temp 19, dew point 4. Not much has changed. Altimeter 299.6. everything is pretty much exactly the same as the first ATIS. Alright, so we'll go ahead and just throw this in to be ahead of the ball. So it is. Mount Vernon visual. Flown that before. So to shoot this approach, you need 3,000 foot ceilings and visibility of 4 miles, and we have that. One thing I'm not sure of that I would like to ask a DCA controller is if you have an ILS, an operable ILS for runway 1, why would you want to use a Mount Vernon visual that, at least to me, granted I'm not a pilot, but might be, even though it's a visual runway, might be a little more, I don't know, a little harder in a way than just shooting an ILS. And I'm sure they would have a smart answer for me. I'm going to take a quick break. Come right back in just a few minutes to initiate the descent. Alright, we are back. And we are going to be starting our descent way too high. So we're basically going to dive bomb this sucker down. Probably won't even be able to finish the stream. Girlfriend's going to be home soon. She gets mad if you know, I'm stuck on the sim, not helping with dinner and all the things that she would like me to be doing. So while we're dive bombing, just looking at this radar. Well, that's just clouds. It ain't real radar. But typically, it seems like Microsoft Flight Sim's weather is about 24 hours old or so. So whatever we're seeing on the ATIS is not probably what's going to be over the field. So in the meantime, let's do a quick. We're going to stick with the ILS, especially since we don't know what is below us. So for a little quick, rough and dirty approach briefing. ILS frequency for runway 1 is 109.9. Final approach course is 6 degrees. Final approach fix is Baden. We'll capture glide slope at 1,600 feet. ILS required minimums, no duh. And touchdown zone is 14 feet. If we go miss, we'll climb to 420 feet, then a climbing left turn to 2,200 feet. Outbound DCA VOR radial 325 to Georgetown NDB. Intercept DME 5.9 DCA and hold. Yeah, as if I know how to do that. So it's a standard glide slope 3 degrees. We have approach lights, Pappy on the right. And again, at 420 feet, make climbing left turn 2,200 feet. Goodness, and you can tell I'm trying to speed through this. All that other good stuff. Our minimums. We need 114 feet for our decision altitude, and RVR 1,200 feet. It's really weird. Okay, I see what it's doing. So this is a Cat 2. For the Cat 1, 214 feet, 200 feet off the ground, half mile viz. I don't dispatch flights into DCA. Actually, I don't think I've dispatched flights into DCA since my last job. Yeah, I'm surprised the DCA even has a Cat 2. Cool. So once we land, it is a short runway. Going to assume it's possibly going to be wet with the cloud coverage that we're seeing on our quote-unquote radar. So let's see, so it's 7,100 feet-ish long. We'll probably get off at November 1. Don't make that Sierra. Since it's a somewhat shortish runway, it's possibly wet. We'll go auto brake medium. Weather may be a factor. Terrain is no factor. In the real world, traffic would be a factor. DCA is obviously in some very dense airspace with Dulles nearby, as well as Baltimore, Philly not too far away, Atlantic City to the east. Hit our push buttons. Everything else is still good. Let's play worst case scenario. Cat 2 approach. Man, this thing is still able to maintain speed, and we're coming down 4,000 feet per minute. Don't like what it's doing right now, so we're going to kind of vector ourselves in. We might have to make and extended downwind. Alright, and as you see, the auto-tune frequency did not capture, so 109.9 is the frequency for the ILS. And this thing is not clicking today. Alright, and our altimeter is 2996 via the last, or per the last ATIS that we got. New one will come out in 2 minutes. And we'll go engine anti-ice on. I'll tell you what too, when you're sitting in the real cockpit and you see some nasty looking clouds coming at you, especially in summertime with a lot of activity going on inside the clouds, it's quite a different sensation than sitting in the back. When you see it coming at you and you know that more than likely you're going to get rocked a little bit with some lighter light turbulence ain't nothing, but some good moderate stuff inside those clouds. At least for me, who's not a pilot, I don't have nearly as many hours inside of a cockpit as the guys that I dispatch do. We've got severe ice, ignition on, wing anti-ice on. We'll clear that. Shallow out our descent. Let's go level for a short second just to bleed off this airspeed. And we'll start a turn. We'll go 270 for the initial turn, and then figure out a better heading once we get oriented that way. Check the speed brakes. And keep it coming down. Catron. Let's go direct Catron. That'll get us in the right direction. Nav below 10. Lights on. And it looks like we are out of icing conditions. Can't tell if it's a little hazy or just the just the sun effects shining through the clouds. Obviously still pretty high. We'll work our way lower again. We'll go ahead and drop the speed to 220. Almost 20 miles from runway 01. Need to be at roughly 2,500 feet by Catron. I think we can make it. This is late, but we'll run the approach checklist. Briefing's complete, approach stable by 1,014 feet, so it's touchdown zone plus 1,000 feet. ECAM status is checked, seatbelt signs are on. Minimums 100 feet. Engine anti-ice 1 and 2 are on. Altimeters 2996 set. Let's run or send for the new ATIS real quick. And it sounds like my girlfriend's home. We busted that 200 knot speed restriction. Like I said, this is real rough and dirty, just trying to get on the ground before girlfriend walks in the door. For all you married, engaged, and boyfriend or girlfriend folks, probably get some gist of what I'm talking about. Also got traffic at 3 o'clock somewhere. Got them. Alright, we'll hang out at 3,000 feet until we capture the glide slope. Go back to activate the approach phase. Stay in heading mode so we keep coming over to the left. Sometimes that localizer is real slow to, or the airplane is real slow to track the localizer. Lokestar. Then we'll go flaps 1. Spoilers retracted. Don't know if we're going to have time to read this ATIS. Everything's still the same. Cool. Slow it down to 1, let's say 170. And glide slope. Gear down. Spoilers armed. $2,500. Go flaps 3. And flaps 4. Alrighty. Landing checklist. Cabin crews advised. Auto thrust speed. Auto brakes medium. ECAM memo. Landing all green. Gear down. Signs on auto. Ground spoilers armed. Flaps config full. Landing checklist is complete. One last thing I want to double check real quick. 2998 on the altimeter.
1000.
So if we go missed, the last thing we want to do is climb and turn to the right, because that will put us into that DCA TFR. You're stable by 1,000. Go ahead and take the airplane. The last stream attempt that I made, there was a glitch with the runway in Vegas for Fly Tampa's Vegas, and it was like hitting a pothole. Threw my airplane up in the air, and then said that I damaged landing gear and crashed. So let's not do that again.
500.
A little bit of a left quartering headwind.
400. 300. 100 above. Minimum.
Continue.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5.
Alright, so we will pull off the runway and just hold right here. Set parking brakes. After landing checklist, exterior lights are set, flaps are retracted, TCAS, transponder standby, engine mode selector normal, ground spoilers disarmed, radar and predicted wind shear is off. After landing checklist complete. So yeah, sorry for that, pretty much what was equivalent to an emergency descent. Knew my girlfriend was on the way home, had some honeydews that had to go finish real quick before she got here. I came back and were, as I figured would be, was a bit high. Dropped it in like a Stuka, but nonetheless, got on the ground with no problem. Really good looking One World livery. Oh, there. APU's read on. Get rid of this thing. Cool. Alright, well that will almost conclude the stream. Let's see, parking checklist. Slides, disarmed, I guess. It's up to the flight attendants. Engines off, seatbelts off, exterior lights set, ice protections off, fuel pumps off, yellow electric pump off, chocks signal has been received, parking brake is on, and parking checklist is complete. Alright, for those of you who watched this, I do believe my buddy Rio, the guy I was talking about earlier in the stream, we're going to try to replicate V1 Simulations shared cockpit flight. I do believe he was watching. So Rio, thank you for hanging out with me. And anybody else who ever watches this in the future, hope you enjoyed it. And until the next one, y'all have a good one.